Welcome to Glycolysis, a leopard's journey to the Pyruvate. In this video we will learn what we've come up with and some of the readings, 10 steps of glycolysis. That includes the glucose goes through glycolysis and comes out with 2-pyruvate, and then we'll show a redox reaction within that.
Okay, so to begin, we have glycolysis, and that's the energy consumption phase, or steps 5 through 1. And the reason it's called energy consumption phase is because 2 ATPs are consumed during the first 5 steps of glycolysis, and they're also known as the preparatory stages. And below you can see the diagram of the series of enzymatic reactions, and those form during glycolysis. They also lead to the creation of 2 glyceraldehyde
3-phosphates. There you go. Alright, step 1. By the way, for each step, the part of the molecule that undergoes a change is shadowed in blue, and the name of the enzyme that catalyzes the reaction is in the yellow box. For step 1, we see the ATP. Glucose is phosphorylated by ATP to form a sugar phosphate. The negative change of the phosphate prevents passage of the sugar phosphate through the plasma membrane, trapping glucose inside the cell.
For step 2, a readily reversible rearrangement of the chemical structure, and that's also known as isomerization, moves the carbonyl oxygen from carbon 1 to carbon 2, and that forms a ketose from an aldose sugar.
Step 3, another ATP is used. The new hydroxyl group on carbon 1 is phosphorylated by ATP in preparation for the formation of 2 3-carbon sugar phosphates. The entry of sugars into glycolysis is controlled at this step through regulation of the enzyme phosphofructokinase.
In step 4, the 6-carbon sugar is cleaved to produce 2 3-carbon molecules. Only the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate can proceed immediately through glycolysis.
And finally, in step 5, the other product of step 4, dihydroxyacetone acetone phosphate is isomerized to form glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So that's the first 5 steps. That's the energy consumption. Now we have the final 5, and that brings us to the energy generation phase, also known as the payoff stage. More enzymatic reactions, and this will lead us to the pyruvate. It's also a conjugate base of pyruvic acid. Pyruvic acid supplies energy to living cells through the Krebs cycle when oxygen is present, and then it alternatively ferments to produce lactic acid when oxygen is lacking. Also aerobic and then anaerobic.
So what's next?
Then we have redox reaction. Redox reaction is also known as oxidation reduction. Basically, they took reduction and oxidation, flipped them backwards, and created redox out of it. Oxidation is the loss of electrons or an increase in oxidation state by molecule, atom, or ion, also known as Leo. Reduction is the gain of electrons or a decrease in oxidation state by a molecule, atom, or ion, also known as GER. For our particular, for glycolysis here, before the payoff period can begin, the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate will oxidize or undergo Leo, while the NAD+ will lose or reduce its electron and undergo GER, leaving us with the below reaction NAD to NADH. This is going to be crucial in the following stages.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the payoff stages, and that's stages 6 through 10. In step 6 of glycolysis, the 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate are oxidized. The energy generation phase of glycolysis begins as NADH and a new high-energy anhydride linkage to phosphate are formed.
Step 7, the transfer to ADP of high-energy phosphate group that was generated in step 6 forms ATP. So now we're getting our ATP back.
In step 8, the remaining phosphate enter linkage in 3-phosphoglycerate, which has a relatively low free energy of hydrolysis. It's moved from carbon 3 to carbon 2 to form two phosphoglycerates.
Step 9, the removal of water from 2-phosphoglycerate creates a high-energy enol phosphate linkage.
And in our last step, step 10, the transfer to ADP of the high-energy phosphate group that was generated in step 9 forms ATP, completing glycolysis.
And then, we're also going to get the ATP back, the second ATP back, which actually brings us to a total of 4 since this reaction is happening in a double, and it's happening twice right now. So summary so far, glucose enters the metabolic pathway, and it's going to go through glycolysis. Um, Glycolysis undergoes the energy consumption phase. This gives us 2-glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates. Then it'll move, and then the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates will perform a redox reaction, which will get us the NADH. And then the glycolysis continues with the energy production phase, and that helps us to produce the 2 pyruvates.
Pyruvates finally were here.
And then that'll give us the final product. Basically, we're gonna give up 2 ATP. We're gonna get back 4. We're gonna get back 2 NADH. The only thing of note here is that with the ATP that we get back, it's actually a net of 2 ATP instead of 4 because we used 2 originally. So we gave up 2, we got back 4, but we get a net of 2 ATP. And then below you can see the chemical equation for glycolysis. And this was a video by myself, Chad Norris.
And myself, Melissa Molinaro.
Some references. Thanks, Professor Lorenz. It was fun.
It was a really fun class. We enjoyed your teaching and just your personality during the class.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.